Hi everyone, I'm Jillian Sidoti, and that is Jeffrey Holst over there, and this is the Last Life Ever podcast, where we want you to live the best version of your life. Jeff, who is our guest here?
Yeah, this is really exciting. We rarely get to film live and in person, but today we have Joe Pleva, who's a real estate broker extraordinaire here in Chattanooga. But also, Joe's done some amazing things. He's traveled to some crazy places. He's done some amazing things in his life. And honestly, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about all the great things Joe did because he's here to tell us all about it. So, Joe, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Jeff. Jillian, pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for coming and being one of our only guests in person, I think.
I think it's the first time we've ever done it. Well, no, we did it in person a long time ago on a previous version of the show, but it is something that we don't do very often. It's definitely the first that we've done in a very long time, so thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Enjoy it.
Joe, tell us what is the most exciting place you've traveled to, and what is your philosophy on life?
The most exciting place I've traveled to would probably be southern Siberia.
Oh my God.
With the Christian Medical and Dental Association. And then we went into the Tibetan mountains down in Tajikistan and China.
Wait.
And I was places where American citizens have never been. I went up into villages where they worshiped plants and trees and things like that. And I did this about 15 years ago. It's kind of cool.
But back up, because there was a lot said. It wasn't just southern Siberia, but then you went on to say with the Christian Medical Dental Association.
That's correct.
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay, explain that. Why were you're a real estate broker, so why were you with?
My niece married a guy, and his dad was a doctor, and he was the head of the Christian Medical and Dental Association.
Okay.
We were sitting there for Thanksgiving one day, and he said, you ought to go to Moldova. And
okay.
I went to Moldova on 2 previous trips before Siberia. And I said, well, what do I do there? I'm not a doctor. He said, you'd be logistics. I said, what the heck is logistics? He said, that just does whatever's needed. We got doctors, we got dentists, we got physical therapists, we got nurses, and we'll have you do eyeglasses, or we'll have you talk in the city, or do other stuff. We don't know what you'll be doing.
Right.
I said, that sounds like fun. Count me in.
So you go to South Siberia. What are you doing there?
Similar type things. They would get a lot of these college students. They'd pay them 3 months' salary for 10 days. Mm-hmm. Top college students. Some of these went into government, and they would come back and they would just track us. I had one person. We went from there. We went to a lot of prisons. They'd send me to prisons where people had killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
Basically, a lot of them got drunk. They got thrown in jail. And they would take me to these guys in chains, and they'd never get out. And so I'd hear them, singing in the background. I mean, you hear it's someone like an American church, and you come back and it's real. And they're just happy, and their tears that you're sitting there fitting their glasses to them. And so it was kind of a cool thing. And I've got a philosophy is when you give and you receive. Not being a doormat, but being a servant. And that's kind of the way I do my business. And so as a result, I get more business than probably anybody else. And everybody thinks I'm a rock star because I pick up my phone, I go to my appointment, I try to make things work. Mm-hmm. I've sold probably over $700 million worth of real estate. And it's just,
it's a couple dollars. It's a couple dollars. Yeah. It's more than I've sold, so I'll give you that. You might have been doing it a few days longer than me. So how long have you been in real estate?
Probably 23 years.
23 years. That's a pretty good number, actually. 700 million in 20 years, 23 years. Yeah. What did you do before you got into real estate?
I was an engineer, ran nuclear plants, was a middle-level manager with TVA, ran all their fossil plants, a lot of their nuclear plants. Then did disaster recovery with FEMA. I went to disasters. Hurricane Sandy, Winter Storm Alfred, the floods up in Nashville, and you get to see people when things go bad. It's no red or blue. Everybody's just pitching in and just trying to take care of each other.
Getting things done. Okay, so how do you decide, I'm going to get out of, and let me set this up for you a little bit. Jeff and I recently read a book with a rest of our podcast, some of our people who follow this podcast. We have a little book club, if you will. And the book we read was Necessary Endings. And it sounds like going from engineering to real estate is a huge, you have to end somewhere. How did you make that decision to make that ending?
Well, I got tired of TVA after 31 years.
Wait, what's TVA?
Tennessee Valley Authority.
Oh, okay.
They operate plants around here. And so I decided, a buddy of mine was working up in Michigan, and so I quadrupled my salary in 2 days. I retired from TV after 31 years on Friday, and then was up there on Monday in about 6 feet of snow. up at DC Cook with American Electric Power. So I had a transition. I went 6 months of doing the same type of work where I was one of the head guys, and I decided I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So where in Michigan was that?
It was in Benton Harbor, Michigan.
Benton Harbor, right.
Yeah, right on Lake Michigan.
Yeah, beautiful area, but not in the middle of the winter. I'm from there myself, so I'm that general area, so I'm familiar with it. But okay, so you made that transition. First you thought, hey, I'm going to make more money, pretty much. I think that's what you're saying motivated you. You retired and thought, I'm going to go make more money, and then you didn't like it?
Not exactly. I went back and I didn't enjoy being in the government. Just leave it like that. And I did college recruitment for TVA. I had 31 jobs, or 18 jobs in 31 years. And so I did that, and I still didn't like it.
Yeah.
I was making $400,000 a year, probably 25 years ago. So I came back, and I had a daughter who was in 9th grade, and I came back because I wanted to keep my marriage together. And it was but I mean, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble when you get out in situations like that. And so while I was doing that, I decided, what do I want to do? So I did a little gig. I interviewed a lot of the named people in Chattanooga. It was with the Chattanooga Resource Foundation. And it was taking a look at life from a Christian world view, it was kind of interesting to go back to. I went with Bob Corker, Zach Wamp, a lot of the people there, and you started to find out what's their why, kind of like what you're talking about in your book. And I did that, and then I decided, well, I got to do something, so I got into real estate. I knew I didn't want to do residential real estate, so I got into commercial real estate. I started to work in commercial real estate and found out that I didn't go to the named schools in Chattanooga. I didn't live in the richest areas. And so what happened was I just had to figure it out. Yeah. Nobody would tell me anything. And real estate is not a team sport, it's an individual sport. And so I just started going out and showing people stuff and doing people stuff and really kind of getting engaged in their life. And I find out that people want to be around people that they like and they care about. And it's really a pretty simple thing.
See, that's actually something that I think is a core point that you just made, right? People want to do business with and be around people that they care about and they like being around. So if you want to, I think the takeaway from that, Joe, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that one of the reasons you've been successful, and probably not just in real estate, but in everything you've done in life, is you've formed relationships with people in a way that they genuinely like you. And certainly I do. That's why you're here today. Like, I've bought real estate from Joe, several times now. He's done some leasing work for us as well. And we're going to continue to do that. So.
Well, and I tell people, commercial real estate is, you have two questions. The first one is that it's consistently inconsistent, and then the other one is what's it like? It depends. And I've sold slaughterhouses, I've sold contaminated properties, I've sold coal mines, I've sold stuff that commercial agents probably in the United States have never sold, and I didn't know a daggone thing about it, but you just kind of learn, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Life is just really fascinating, which is kind of the reasons I've sort of liked you with your book. I know it's not a pitch for your book, but your book is really kind of cool because...
This podcast is a constant pitch for that.
Your life sucked, but you decided that you were going to let your day suck. Yeah. And I mean, that's a great message.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it exactly like that. But for people who don't know, if you don't know, my book is called No Bad Days, How to Make Every Day Great. And it is a story about my life and some of the challenges I've faced and how I've looked at it. A little bit different than other people, but it is about, like you said, it's about figuring out how to make each day good, regardless of the external environment. And I love that about you too, because you've had some challenges in life too, and you've been able to overcome those by just staying positive.
Yeah, listen, Joe, I still want to go backwards for a second because you said a couple key things there. Like years and years and years ago, 20-something years ago, you were making $400,000.
Which is like $1 million now. It's a ton.
Did you you must have had some kind of hesitation when you were like, I'm going to give this up.
Yeah, because I got into real estate, and let me tell you something. The first few years...
You don't make any money.
No, you not only don't make any money. I had to wear a tie, which I didn't want to. I had a boss who made me go back and look at a lot of things. He told me a lot of really good things. Mm-hmm. He said, find out who the decision maker is. Kind of drive the same road to the same place with different roads. Sure. And so I probably drive 80,000 miles a year in the roads. In 20 years, that's $1.6 million. I can probably tell you just about every road in Chattanooga, every piece of property, every dozer that's there, where the bankruptcies are, who's divorced, and it's just kind of fun.
Yeah.
And in this business, knowledge is important, but I don't do it to make money. I do it because I enjoy it.
Huh.
Yeah.
So there's 7 things there to pull out of that.
Yeah.
So one of the things I always tell people when it comes to living the best version of their life is that you have to find ways to get yourself out of the ordinary. And one example I always give is drive a different way to work every day. Like, just find a different road to go. Because if you drive the same way every day, you don't see anything. Because you just get into this zone. It's called the Iago trance, actually. There's a psychological name for it. And like, when you're in that zone, you're not paying attention.
Right.
Your subconscious mind takes over and you don't see anything new.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, I went different ways I drove different areas. I saw different things. I paid attention. You kept yourself awake. And that's where opportunity comes from. So that's the first thing I think you said that's exactly brilliant and why I wanted to have you on here. But then you said right after that you just did it because you loved it. And that's the most important part, right? Because if you don't like what you're doing, and that's like pillar number 1, right? Discover your life's purpose kind of thing for us. Like, one of the things we talk about when we're talking about discovering your life's purpose is find something you love. Like, figure out what you're good at, yes, but also figure out something that you can keep doing forever and you would do even if it was for free.
And I can totally relate to this, right? Because like Jeff and I actually recently went to a real estate meetup and we just started spitting out facts. And after we were done, somebody came up to us and asked, well, how do you know all this stuff? What do you read? What do you do? And my response was,
tell them, I don't know. I just pay attention to it all the time.
I love looking at real estate. Like, in certain zip codes, I can tell you every single piece of real estate that is for sale, what it's for sale for, what kind of staircase it has, because I love that. I love looking at real estate that much. One
of the things that I've done too is I've always wanted to be around people that are better than me. I'm a scratch golfer, maybe not now, but I want to play with guys that were played on college golf teams.
Sure.
I was an Eagle Scout. I was in the military. I played basketball where I was on a championship basketball team in Chattanooga when I was in my 50s.
Yeah.
Played with I was one of the few white guys on the team, and I was good. But it was a lot of fun, and that's the thing that drives you to be better and better.
As if you're around people who are better than you.
Yeah,
so I think the lesson from that is surround yourself with people who will bring you up, not keep you the same.
Well, exactly, and then most of my friends are half my age.
Yeah.
I wouldn't probably hang around with you guys, although I think you guys are fun. But I mean, I'm around guys that are 30 years old. I do a lot of alcohol and drug ministry over their church, take guys on the boat. I mean, in fact, one guy now, you might know him, a guy named Nip Galbraith, he's trying to get me to do these cold plunges up at the creek up there at 33 degrees in the morning. I said, not right yet, but I may try to do that. But I mean, life is fun.
So cold plunges are actually really good for HO. They're really good for inflammation. I don't do them nearly enough, but I did one time jump off of a boat into the Southern Ocean off the shore of Antarctica. That was a cold plunge. 33-degree water, that's toasty warm. When there's icebergs that they have to move out of the way, that's cold.
Listen, it's funny to me because you said a lot of things, and I think, like, I find a lot of people get into their 40s and they start getting a little complacent and stop doing those things. Stop going and playing basketball, for example, or attempting cold plunges. Are you gonna do the cold plunge? You're gonna make
if Jeff goes with
I'll do it. We'll take a video.
Yeah. But in surrounding yourself, I've spoken to you before, and in surrounding yourself with people who are better than you at certain skills or what have you, how do you avoid everybody else? I wouldn't say everybody else, but those people who are bringing you down.
Well, it goes back to life givers or life sucker outers. It's a choice.
Right.
I sell real estate. I spend time in my car. I mean, I'll visit with people, talk with them, ask a little bit about how their kids are doing. But if they want to complain about something, I'll say, I'll be very nice about it, and I'll just walk away. And it's just, I've just stayed away from them.
Life suckers.
Yeah.
Life givers and life suckers.
Yeah, and I had a brother who was Down syndrome. That's how I got to Chattanooga from Chicago. He went to the Orange Grove School, and he got a chance. He was number 2 golfer in the state of Tennessee, Downs. He played basketball.
Yeah.
He went on trips to Kindy Castle in Ireland and in Alaska. He bowled 190, and he was fascinating. He went on the TV with a lot of the TV things. And what happens is Downs and a lot of handicapped people, They're like Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman. They don't have any ulterior motives. We all have ulterior motives.
Yeah.
They don't, for the most part. And so I want to be around people that are just happy with life.
Yeah, so that's a life giver.
That's life.
So but let's take Down syndrome out of it for a second. Let's just talk about people who perhaps don't have Down syndrome, like me and Jeff. I like to think. And how would you identify, because this has been a real struggle in my life. I've gotten involved with many life suckers. And so how would you suggest to somebody like me identify the life suckers and the life give without too much effort?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. Still continue to make them, but don't make them nearly as much. I mean, you get around life, you suck around, you'll know it real quick. They'll complain. They're in families, they're in businesses, they're neighbors and other stuff, and you have to deal with them. And I try to be positive and try to be when you're a life giver, you try to reach out a hand for them and be a friend, not be a doormat. And there's a real balance, and you never learn it. But one of the reasons I just like different types of people. And one of the things I'm good at, looking people in the eye, asking them a little bit about what's going on in their life, their business. I'm probably the only broker in town that when I talk with somebody, I want to go see their plant. I want to see what they do, how they manufacture it. I can tell you just about every plant in Chattanooga, what they manufacture, how they do it, and it's fascinating. And you can't fake it. You either like it or you don't. It's like being married. If you fake it, sooner or later you're going to get divorced.
So can we say a big tell with somebody who is a life sucker is their level of complaining? If you find them complaining about their life, their family, their neighbors, their coworkers, their boss, whatever it might be, if it's somebody who complains, you should start moving.
That's one part of it. The other thing is probably even more is they think about themselves, and you can think about yourself without complaining.
Right.
I mean, as far as doing stuff like that.
Sure.
You find people people want to be around people that pay attention. Look at parties.
Showing interest, right?
Showing interest.
Okay.
So, and that kind of goes back to what you said at the very beginning, right? Like at the very beginning, you were like, one of the reasons that you think you're successful in business is you try to help people, right? Like that's not exactly what you said, but what you're really saying for life givers is these are people that genuinely care about the people that are around them, and they're trying to support those people. Well, that doesn't mean they're going to give them things. It doesn't mean they're going to be a doormat, like you said, but it does mean that they're going to care and try to help where they can.
I'll give you an example. I worked with the former mayor of Chattanooga. He's dead now, and I worked with a guy named Fletcher Bright and several other prominent realtors. And he would spend as much time on a 1,000 square foot lease with a guy in the inner city that he would on a $25 or $50 million deal on doing stuff like that. And you wouldn't know whether he was a Republican or a Democrat. He just cared about people. And he had a dry sense of humor. And I mean, that's what we miss. We don't laugh at ourselves. It's like now, what's really more important is for people just to really take the time out and just listen to people.
Sure. Well, listen, let's wrap this up. But before we do, where is your next adventure in travel, if there is a next?
I got back from Mardi Gras with a 3, 5, and 7-year-old.
Wait, you went with kids to Mardi Gras? That sounds risky.
I went to 7 parades.
Oh,
I had all of the stuff. I took it out to the different people here, and then it was a 3-ring circus because Mardi Gras, you got the family places, the older family, you got the
debauchery places.
Yes, and then you got the debauchery places.
Yeah.
But I'm heading out to Costa Rica in another week and a half. A buddy of mine, I did a deal, and he had another broker, had it for a year, didn't sell the building. I sold his building in 2 days.
Nice.
Did both sides of the deal. He's giving me taking me and my daughter out, and we're going to go sail fishing down to Costa Rica.
Nice.
So it's kind of, I didn't ask for that, it just happened. And it's kind of a gift. A gift is when you just go back and surprise some things. My wife and I were getting married 40 years. I'm taking her over to Scotland.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Congratulations on 40 years. That's
I've
amazing.
got some other goals. I'd like to play scratch golf again. I'd like to go back and do some snow skiing. I used to be a real good snow skier. There's a lot of stuff that I want to do, but I'm just going to take it one day at a time. And that's the reason I came over here, because Jeff was not a life sucker outer. And you weren't either. And it's amazing. It's a privilege to come back through here. It's just a real privilege to come back here because I really like what you guys are doing. Try to live your best life ever, just one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. That's what life's all about.
Yeah,
So I appreciate being here.
And I think, Joe, like your life philosophy is uniquely aligned with Last Life Ever because we have, for people who don't know, we have 5 pillars, right? And you may know some of this, but the first one is discovering your life's purpose. The second one is creating empowering habits, and we talked a little bit about that today. But the third one is about creating financial independence. So like things like real estate investing and stuff is really important in that. And then the fourth one is about just having extraordinary experiences, going sail fishing in Costa Rica.
And the fifth one is one that Joe can relate to.
Exactly.
It's community involvement.
Giving back to your community.
And the thing is, you can't have any of these without the other. Like number 3, financial independence. There's no point of having financial independence if you don't have good habits, if you don't have a purpose in life, if you're not giving back to your community, or you're not spending that money on adventures.
And in closing, you have to understand, we're all custodians of the money.
Yeah.
And there's a God, and we ain't him, and so I can spend everyone.
Upstairs somewhere.
But the bottom line is, when you go back through that, you do that, and I can spend as much time on a real small deal that I'm going to get nothing. Or I'd say a good 25% of my deals, I don't make a penny. I do for free.
Yeah.
Just because I want to do it, and it's my business, and I can do that.
Because you never know when that person's going to come back around, too.
But it's also not that. It's also just about helping, right? So I think, and just to wrap it up, like Joe, the reason I wanted you on our show is because I feel like your life is a good example of how to live in all 5 of those pillars. And we have this theory that we have to just and I don't even think it's a theory, I think it's a fact. We all, every one of us, doesn't matter if you're 10 years old or you're 100 years old, you have to be constantly focusing on getting better in each of those 5 areas, because there's always something you can do to improve. And that's what I love about you. You're still trying to improve, even though you're a little bit later in your career, a little bit later in your life than some other people. Some of our listeners are in their early 20s and they're just starting this journey.
Yeah.
And they can benefit from the wisdom that you're sharing. And I really appreciate you coming and sharing that with them.
Well, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here, and maybe you do it again sometime.
I would love to, Joe.
I'll come down to Puerto Rico and see you guys.
Oh my God, that would
we'll
be
film
amazing.
for sure in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I want a live film in Puerto Rico.
It's a deal.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. I'm Jillian Sidoti. And Jeff, what do you want to remind everybody to do?
To go out and live the very best version of your last life ever.